1, 2, 3, or 4 dehydration-related incidents that are going on right now. Awesome. Well, thanks all for coming out a little early to this to join to see the talk. And just I love seeing so many familiar faces too. For most of you, I think, and if you've seen me and I don't remember you, then I do apologize. But I really do appreciate all the work that people do here to give up their time to come up here to help this park. And of all years, especially this year, we cannot thank you enough for the efforts and work that you've done to help Mount Rainier and all the passion that you guys provide too. Because I think the visitors 100% see it. They come in, we hear about that all the time, saying like, oh my gosh, I met this person on the trail. They were super helpful. I was so lost, I had no idea where I was going. And even people that were told to come back onto the trail that were off, sometimes they have positive comments to say, which is good. That means you've done a good job of being able to educate on why we want to keep our meadows clean and safe, and all the different people that come here to visit that get to use this campground, that explore this park. So I do appreciate all that. And so today I wanted to do this little talk about another member of this park that is kind of a lifeblood of this park, a member that actually calls this place home permanently. You know, we all get to visit here and to live here for brief periods of time, and sometimes come back frequently, even in the winter time. But the creature I'm going to talk about is a bold, mighty, powerful, strong, fierce, brave creature that is able to survive in one of the most extreme environments on Earth. Right up the road at Paradise is one of the snowiest places on planet Earth where weather is recorded regularly. 56 feet of snow falls right here every single year. Bitter cold, breezing winds, bristling heat in the summertime. 1.5 million visitors roaming around, predators and blizzards galore. All of this stuff. And this is the mighty creature that survives through all of that. That is able to withstand all of these and more challenges. So our marmots here, they are brave and mighty. I call them our mighty little mountaineers of the meadow. They are very cute. They are around. I'm sure we've all seen our marmots up there in the meadow, right?
Yeah. They don't like the bright sunshine.
No, they don't like it. You'll see them sometimes on the sun here, just resting on the rocks like that. They only have such a brief period of time to kind of get moseying and get working on eating these flowers and getting ready for our long winters. But yeah, the heat, not their favorite, but they endure in those beautiful alpine meadows. I'm curious though, we've seen marmots here. Has anybody here seen a marmot elsewhere in a different park or different place? Yeah.
Crater Lake.
Crater Lake, yeah. Those are some of our yellow-bellied marmots.
Are they different?
They are, yeah. So these up here are this silvery color code, if you can see that here. These are called hoary marmots, H-O-A-R-Y. These are named so because of the silvery coat that they have. It was reminiscent to early explorers of hoarfrost, the kind of diamond crystal that you see on snow after a nice, fresh, cold, crisp morning, sparkling like diamonds. That's just like our coats here. But yeah, Southern Cascades, as you go further south, like Crater Lake, park that is near and dear to my home. I worked there for a number of years, with Kevin over there actually. They have yellow-bellied marmots, different type, and that'll be down even into the Rockies. But yeah, similar big old groundhogs here. Had some other hands go up. Yeah.
North Cascades?
The North Cascades, yeah. If you find a mountain, you'll find a marmot. You had one up?
Yeah, I saw some in Mongolia, northern Mongolia.
Yes, yeah. This is a global creature. It's not just here. They are all over. Anywhere you have a mountain peak, marmots can live and thrive. They have a very specific life zone that they can live in, but in that life zone, they do withstand all of those conditions and more. So our marmots exist up here to explore in our meadows, to summit peaks, to explore around and hike around. And they also are quite friendly sometimes, but the good part for our marmots is they do tend to stick to themselves. Our visitors get a lot of good photos of them, and so do we. But they tend to be kind of single-track mind. Because here at Mount Rainier, I mentioned the snowiest place on planet Earth where weather is recorded regularly. It's very hot today. But really, we're not that far from snow starting to blanket all of this ground. And the marmots know that. While they might be sweating in their fur coats today, very soon blankets of snow are going to come and they will have to be prepared for that. So it's a tough and early life as you see them exploring around. But those challenges that they face, as we will kind of detail, they also are important that we kind of do our part to not make those challenges harder. Because the thing is, these wildflowers that Mount Rainier is so famous for is their primary food source. Lupin in particular, some of their favorites. But they will enjoy all of the bounty that our meadows have to offer. And, well, as we see these marmots looking so majestic and picturesque, like this one here over on a rock, sometimes people have the idea, they look at that, they see that photo, they go, you know, that is a really good photo. The marmot looks awfully good there, but I think maybe I could look pretty good over there too. And they have that idea that, you know, maybe, nobody's really looking, just a little pathway over there surrounded by all these fields of gorgeous meadows, I can maybe get a photo with that marmot right there. Obviously, present companies, we would never have that idea or never act on it. But some people think about it, they'll make that journey out, they'll make their way to that meadow, and they think it's no big harm to just, you know, one person. But if just 6 people had the exact same idea, at the exact same location, they will create a trail scar that will not grow back without intervention. That's not that many to have that idea. To suddenly take away very limited resources for our marmots. And while we have plenty of marmots, they do have to fight for those territories.
They do this sitting on top of the rocks.
Yeah, the little marmot boxing, right? Yeah, or kind of like marmot sumo wrestling almost. Because they don't really like throw punches, but they kind of wrestle, right? You've seen it. Everybody else seen the marmot boxing in live? You haven't? Okay, well, keep your eyes peeled for it. They will wrestle. They'll do this for a couple of things. When they're young, especially, it's kind of almost a form of play. But it also, like a lot of things in the animal kingdom, play mimics future reality. It kind of gives them that ability to. They will jostle and wrestle over territory and spots and areas to establish dominance. To say, you know, this rock, this area, this meadow patch, this is mine, not yours. And so you will see them up there. You might even hear them a lot of times whistling.
Oh, whistling.
Oh yeah.
There is girls out there, really sexy dressed, and then the moments are whistling, and they come to me and they say, "Why are the guys whistling girls up here?"
Those are those marmots. Well, hopefully just those marmots. But yes, our marmots will whistle. They actually have a very distinctive whistle patterns. We've been able to identify several different types of whistles that denote different things. So they actually have a communication pattern, a language, if you will, in that whistling pattern. So one of their nicknames is the Whistler or the Whistle Pig, as they're found. In fact, all the way up, we did talk about them being global, all the way up into Canada. These marmots, the same type we have here, the hoary marmots, are actually so popular that they actually decided to rebrand a mountain after this charismatic little member of that mountain. London Fog Mountain up in Canada, they decided to rebrand it, make it a little bit more punchy, a little more interesting, a little more exotic. And so they named it after these marmots and renamed it from London Fog to Whistler. So up there you will find our marmots as well. Now, we mentioned some of the areas we've seen marmots at, and they rely on an area called the subalpine zone. This is a really kind of delicate and important zone for them to live in. We're down here in the forest zone. As you go up higher in elevation, you will get to smaller trees, thinner trees, more open sun, and more meadow. That allows for our wildflowers to grow. Without that meadow, and without those wildflowers, a number of creatures would not be able to survive, the marmots included. But as you go up a little higher in the mountain, you get to the alpine zone. And up there, no trees or very limited trees, sparse vegetation entirely. Even if you were coming from here over to Sunrise, where you're starting now at 6,400 feet versus over here up at Paradise at 5,400, you are suddenly now moving into that alpine zone, and you can see that the topography, the landscape is totally different. There is good wildflower meadows, but as you go up higher up, Sourdough Ridge or further, suddenly now those wildflowers are more sparse. So they live in this zone right here that's pretty narrow and getting more narrow. As climate change affects our park, as it does the whole world, the warmth in the subalpine zone makes it a lot better for our forests to move up the mountain, shrinking the territory. The thing is, the subalpine can't really move much further up. The alpine is pretty much a hard capped space. But lower down this forest zone, suddenly now this is getting warmer and more comfortable. Up here, pictures, 2 pictures, a postcard and a picture from Paradise. This is of Camp of the Clouds, which was the first big kind of campground up by Alta Vista, which is in this photo right here. Now, Alta Vista, if you were up there looking up right now at this landscape, you would see a lot more trees than you have right here. A lot more trees. And this was in 1910, I believe this photo was taken, or 1911. So within just a little over 100 years, we have seen a huge proliferation of trees. In fact, this is also the area where we have in the past, in the wintertime, our sledding hill, which at each winter, the trees grow taller, the snow gets less, and it gets longer and longer before we'd ever have the ability to cover those trees enough to build our sledding hill. Haven't had it open in about 5 years, may never have it open again. So as our forest zone encroaches up on the subalpine, and our marmots are fighting over even more sparse territory, that really does create a big stress. Even more important that we do not stomp our meadows to limit the meadows even further for them. And they have other stresses. The winter is a very challenging time, as we've seen. These are little diagrams of some of the dens that they might have. In the wintertime, they're tucked away, creating these little false pockets to confuse potential would-be predators. But as that snow falls, they have to have enough food stored up, enough fat built up that they can survive for months underground in the winter. And in fact, they are one of the most impressive creatures because they are a true hibernator. So we're going to do a little demonstration to showcase what hibernation is. Now, when I say hibernation, what creature immediately springs to mind? Bears. They're not even a true hibernator. No, the marmot has this true ability. Bears, they do a form of it. They do a thing called torpor. It's fine. It does okay, but it is not close to the superpower that our marmots have. No, in fact, true hibernation is an incredible biological, physical change. And so you guys are going to help me out with that. So, we need a baseline first. So for us humans, as we're resting here, relaxing, getting ready to eat our delicious picnic, our hearts are resting at a normal resting rate, which is about 60 beats per minute. And so you're going to help me out with some clapping. Every hand clap is going to be a heartbeat. So for us humans, at a resting rate, we're going to test it out. We're going to clap 1 heartbeat for every second. I'm going to count off 1. You're going to give me your heartbeat. So now it's us humans, resting here, and our hearts are beating like this. 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. Nice and steady. When we go to sleep tonight, our hearts are going to stay pretty much the same. They don't really go below resting. Throughout the night, our bodies are going to be pumping blood, our brains are going to still be firing neurons, and so when we wake up, we're hungry. Our marmots can't have that ability, so let's get our marmots in the summertime. Summertime, our marmots are running around, whistling, wrestling. Their hearts are beating roughly 180 beats per minute. That's 3 beats every single second. So I'm going to count off 1, but now we got to get our marmot heartbeats up, so that we have to do 3 claps for every time I get to 1. So here we are. We're ready. You're your marmot. You're wrestling. You're fighting in the meadows. You're running on top of rocks, whistling for predators, and our hearts are beating like this. 1, 1, one, 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 one. Nice and fast. So if marmots were like humans, they didn't have the ability to hibernate, they would burn through their food supply super, super quickly, and suddenly when they wake up in April, and there's still 5, 6, 7, 8 feet of snow on the ground, not a flower in sight, they'd be in trouble. So they do have that ability. So when they are all nestled, nice and quiet, in their dens, several feet underground, with several dozen feet above them of snow blanketing, their hearts go from 180 beats per minute in the summertime all the way down to 15 beats per minute. One heartbeat every 4 seconds. So now, picture this, you're a marmot, you're warm, you're cozy, you're ready for a long winter's nap, and your hearts are beating, still 1 beat on 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. Breathing will slow to around 1 breath every 60 to 120 seconds. The body temperature will drop to nearly freezing. So if you were to dig underneath the snow and underground and find a marmot in its den, it would appear dead. But it is very much alive and thriving, conserving that energy so that 7 months later, they can emerge, see that there's too much snow, stay in that den for another month or so, wait for those first avalanche lily to pop out, and be fine. Have a late lunch instead of an early breakfast. Now, the winters, the forest encroachment, meadow stomping, all of this can be big challenges for our marmots because they also are a creature that a lot of predators like to hunt. They've faced coyotes, red foxes, golden eagles, red-tailed hawks, and now a new threat. Well, a new familiar threat. A threat that they haven't faced in about 100 years. And that is a threat that emerged, or re-emerged, I should say, in this park, back in 2019. And that is the wolverine.
Yeah.
For the first sighting in over 100 years in Mount Rainier, we saw this wolverine right here, Joni, which is really fascinating. Now, where and how Joni came to return to Mount Rainier, we have to go back a year prior to that. 1 year prior to that, in 2018, something opened north of us on I-90, this wildlife crossing. And a really impressive thing, because suddenly now we have seen tracking all sorts of creatures moving down. It is believed that Joni actually was a North Cascades wolverine who made her way down thanks to this overpass, allowing the safe travel for creatures north and south. We've seen things like a moose show up in the last few years randomly, probably thanks to this. So all sorts of creatures are now able to pass through. So now, yes, wolverines have returned. And most impressively, and most excitingly for scientists, a female wolverine. Because where a female wolverine will be means male wolverines will soon follow. And so in 2018, I-90 wildlife crossing opened. 2019, we got our first glimpse of Joni, first glimpse of a wolverine back in Mount Rainier in 100 years. And then in 2020, we saw 3 kits, Joni's triplets. She gave birth to a new generation of wolverines here at Mount Rainier. We have now seen evidence and sightings of wolverines over the last few years at Paradise, over at Sunrise, on Summerland. They have a huge native range, and this is a sign that potentially that this park is now hospitable to wolverines again, and they are returning. This is not like the fisher, which is a creature that we helped to reintroduce back to this park, bring it back from the edge of extinction. This creature brought itself all the way back. It's pretty impressive. But maybe not so great if you're a marmot, because wolverines are an incredible, talented hunter. It also maybe not so great if you're a red-tailed fox, or a red fox, Cascade red fox, who have now been seen a lot less at Paradise. And in fact, we started to see them a little lower down towards Ricksecker Point and lower. And that is not to be too surprising because, well, the thing is with wolverines, when they're somewhere, a lot of other predators decide to kind of give them a big amount of space and move on down because they don't want to mess with trying to compete with these. So our marmots face all sorts of challenges. They face predators. They face all sorts of challenges from the winter winds and climate change and even just people. But here's the thing. I mentioned that just a few people having the same bad idea at the same time can have such a detrimental effect. The inverse is also true. Just a handful of people having the right idea at the same time can have a tremendous impact. That's what happened here to bring wolverines back to this park. It's what happens when we have our meadow restoration crews out there replanting meadows and bringing back life. It's what happens with all of you helping us impact this park. Informing people that maybe the photo is just as good not trampled on top of the meadow. And yes, as adorable and cute as our marmots are, maybe they don't need your Cheetos. Maybe they can just enjoy those flowers themselves. And so, with these marmots, with this new appreciation, I hope that we are able to enjoy this park, explore them, enjoy these marmots, travel through their home, and give them the respect that they need, so that our mighty little mountaineers can have a safe and welcoming home for many years to come. So thank you guys so much.
How long do they live?
The age of a cat. So in the wild, probably about 10 to 12 years. In captivity, it could be 18 to 20.
Are they seed disseminators?
You know, they are, because they'll eat and they'll poop. Yeah, absolutely. Anything that eats and poops, they're going to help distribute some seeds for sure. They'll eat some of the berries too. The bears do better at that. But some of the other flowers like lupin and other things like that, yeah, you're going to bring out those seeds for sure. They'll also grab flowers. They actually have pretty dexterous little hands. So you'll see them kind of grabbing flowers and tearing them. And so just even carrying those around, that'll also help shake seeds loose too on certain things.
But last year we had one attacking people up there.
We did.
Thankful.
We did, yeah. So we had a marmot named, we eventually captured and named Chestnut, based on the former wildlife biologist for the park. Chestnut's kind of a sad story. So he was very habituated, obviously, to the point where, would actually just attack. We had a woman come into the visitor center with a bite on her ankle.
Yeah.
So like normally the time when people come in with a bite from a squirrel or something, we go, what did you do? What did you do? But a bite on the ankle, suddenly I'm like, okay, maybe that's maybe us. So yeah, he was very, very habituated, and that's the danger, right? Is that suddenly now they're expecting food, they're demanding food, they're like, I bet you have food, give me food now. And that's pretty dangerous because they are a rodent. They are a large ground squirrel, and so they carry a lot of really bad diseases potentially. And so Chestnut was captured, brought to Northwest Trek Wildlife Park, and he was had a little display, kind of won the lottery when it comes to that. He had an enclosure and a display. Got to see him there briefly, but unfortunately, after his first hibernation in captivity, when he was coming out about almost actually the weekend they were going to kind of really unveil him to the public, started to have severe kidney problems and died soon
Dog
after.
attacking a guy's feet. Toes.
So,
he had sandals on, and he was so happy that it was coming to him.
Suddenly.
And I knew already. I said, and that was going after his toes.
Oh yeah.
That
And
was
they have some pretty sharp teeth.
Oh,
So I would
you can
not.
see their teeth.
Yeah, I would not
They
want
look
that
so
biting me.
dangerous, but they're normal, never dangerous.
No, they're normally quite cute. So so unfortunately with Chestnut, he did not survive. He had a rapid kidney failure, other medical things, and Northwest Trek had to put him down, and probably related to just some horrifically horrible diet of stuff that you should not be eating. And hibernation is a big, we kind of showed like how much change in the body. That is a lot. And so that is tough to do properly if you are not, fed properly.
So I'm curious about the hibernation. I know they eat a lot to prepare for the hibernation, but you're saying they also store food down in their dens too?
Yeah, so they will store a little bit of food. So they'll store some food, some bedding as well, basically, but there'll be a little bit of food stored up. So not a ton, not like a pica level where they have like a lot of food stored up, but they'll have food storage because they're gonna basically in their dens will give birth and will raise young for like about that month or so period when they're out of hibernation, and so they do need some supplemental food, but most of the time, and that's another big reason why we don't want people feeding these animals, because ground squirrels do the same type of hibernation, and they'll store up some cache of food. Another big part of this is not just the bad food for them is not very healthy. A lot of our food is processed, even food that's like nuts or seeds that are processed to be shelf stable. Because of that, if they take that food and they don't eat it, they cache it instead, that can actually rot the rest of their food that is able to be stable. And so suddenly all the food that they've cached gets rotted by this introduced food, and now when they wake up, everything's gone. And they could starve to death or have to come out into the wild when it's pretty sparse, running around for food. Suddenly now Wolverine's in a very nice meal. Yeah.
I had a marmot encounter over at Sunrise Point this year.
Oh.
And somebody had fed it. I didn't see him feeding it, but somebody reported it to me. So I went over, and the marmot was under a car. And it did not want to get there. And so it ended up being, for me, an exercise in crowd control, trying to keep people away, trying to keep the cars from running it over. Trying to coax the marmot in a certain direction, which I found was impossible. And then, and I called in on the radio. 4 law enforcement showed up. They showed up. Marmot took off, up over the wall, and was gone.
It knew the fuzz was there, and it was like, I'm out of here. I'm wanted. I need to go.
I have another question.
Yeah.
Somebody told me that they have their own place for bathroom.
Yeah. So this is actually, out around in the dens, it's actually kind of cool. They will actually have a separate chamber. Yeah. So some of these dens are like really elaborate. They will have dens where they will like kind of defecate somewhere else, and then those like false tunnels so that it'll confuse predators. So yeah, it's kind of a very elaborate. So when you see like a big boulder and a mound and like marmots kind of popping in and out, underneath that is like a really elaborate house, pretty much. They will establish that, and that's actually why you do get a lot of marmot competition. So you want to be able to potentially move in and not have to kind of work on that. There's a city up there basically, and it's right below our eyes.
I said, what?
Yeah. No, they're pretty. It's pretty incredible. It's a pretty incredible creature. Yeah.
Crossing that the wolverines use. What happened 100 years ago that threatens their population?
So, it's a good question. Wolverines are kind of mysterious. They are very, very, very elusive. They do tend to keep pretty good distance from people. 100 years ago, if you think about where that is, your early 1920s, you're starting to see the proliferation of cars, right? You're seeing not just some automobiles, but like automobiles being kind of widely available. Model T Ford kind of now suddenly makes that a mass producible thing, and suddenly now that is a transportation effort, and you're starting to see also an increase in roads and potentially like much more also impact of people too. Before then, like say in this park when we started in 1899, you're really not seeing a ton of visitors everywhere, and when they are coming up, it's coming up by horse first and then eventually car. So I think we don't know what drove them out. They were a very valuable pelt. They weren't like, unlike the fisher, it probably wasn't fully trapped to extirpation, but that would definitely be a big part of it. They were a fur trapped creature, like a lot of other things here. But yeah, 100% don't know exactly what drove them away, as mysteriously as they left, but I would really, really assume that the kind of, not advent, but the boom of automobiles and roads and freeways and highways really helped to kind of cut off these populations, kind of isolate them, and then that kind of just makes it harder for them to kind of get that diversity and then go away.
Do you have a sense of when, what is it, I-90? Or when
I-90.
was that built? That
So
leg of
it was started, I don't remember when it was started, but it was opened for the public in 2018. Or not for the public. It was finished and completed in 2018.
The crossing was?
The crossing,
But
yeah.
the original road?
I-90?
Yeah.
Oh.
I wonder if
Long time ago. Yeah, I don't know.
it's like 100 years ago or more.
50s? Yeah.
Interstate highway system was the 50s.
Well, yeah. So interstate was Eisenhower, so that would have been the 50s. I don't know what was.
Probably was a road before that.
I was going to say, I'm sure there was a road, a crossing. So that's one of the
At least a
later ones.
railroad.
Yes. Yeah. So I would just think it was just as they got bigger. So
I like this going on, crowd convo about the roads, when
Totally.
the road network was being built.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. No, it's great. It's a great question though, because the other thing too with the Wolverines was until we kind of got so Wolverines have a very they have distinct colorations in their blazes and faces and whatnot, and so they the Cascade Carnivore Project was really instrumental helping us with this, studying these, coming up here, tracking them, and kind of making sure that like this was we believe like why we believe Joni came from the North Cascades is because of evidence from her there on wildlife cameras and DNA evidence, and then also same DNA evidence here to showcase that, which is also really cool to show that there's biodiversity here rather than not just okay, maybe we're catching similar wolverines. So yeah, so the Cascade Carnivore Project has a lot more info, and Jocelyn Atkins, Dr. Jocelyn Atkins, is the person that was like the big. She is the reason for this discovery, really, and in partnership with this park and North Cascades and this area. But Dr. Jocelyn Atkins has a ton of really cool stuff about wolverines, and such a cool project. Has been out here in the winter time to snowshoe up to their dens to kind of keep track of them. This photo is of Joni, I believe around Eastern Skyline. We think there's a den somewhere in there, but they
I've
have
seen one up there.
their home zone is like 50, 60 miles, so they can go all over. But they're frequented at Paradise a lot. We've seen a lot of sightings over the last few years, but it is probably because, again, tons of meadow, which means a ton of marmots, ground squirrels, chipmunks, pika, like just a smorgasbord of delicious bite-sized snacks.
Also, you're more likely to see them if you have a million people looking.
That's also true. Yeah. That's a really good point from Kevin. There is that a lot of times with their disappearance and we also aren't 100% sure they were no Wolverines here at all for 100 years. It's also this project comes about starting to look for them and starting to identify them. So they had been very sparse to potentially not here at all for that time, but you also need to look, otherwise everything's a mystery if you don't find them. I mean, marble murrelets you can almost say are basically an invisible bird because of how rare and elusive they are. But if you kind of go out and study and look for them, you can see that they're still around, but very few.
My point too was that we get reports of them mostly at Paradise. Doesn't necessarily mean that's the place that they're concentrated. It just means that that's where the people
And that's where
who
everyone-
see them
yes, yeah.
are concentrated. They may be more distributed around the park, but instead of having a person hiking by every 10 seconds, someone hikes by every 10 hours. So obviously you're going to have fewer sightings.
We're gonna, and especially I would imagine something at Tommy Peak, now that that's closed off into just basically backpacking, might see sightings there, but be very much fewer. Sunrise, it's open for how many months out of the year?
Yeah.
They're active all winter long, so we see sightings of them in Paradise because that's the area where people can go in the winter. Sunrise, they're there, they're probably enjoying it a lot more because they don't even have anybody to worry about. Hell yeah.
With the upslope migration of the forest,
Mm-hmm.
at Mount Rainier, did indigenous peoples burn to maintain meadows as they do in the lower elevations?
At Rainier, do we have evidence of that? Of burning?
At least anecdotal evidence.
Okay.
The self-reporting by the native peoples are that they did.
Yeah.
That they would camp at the high elevations in the summertime, and then in the fall, as they left, they would set fires behind them to encourage the huckleberry growth.
Yeah.
Would that be a management option for the park?
Theoretically,
Yeah.
I've always considered it a very interesting philosophical question because the purpose of the National Park Service is to preserve the natural processes. And if it's a process that has been going on for 8,000 years, but it was people doing it, is that or is that not a natural process that should be preserved by the National Park Service?
It's a really good question. It's a really good question. Yeah.
I'm sorry, I got here late, but did you talk at all about the pikas?
I didn't on this, but they're a really cool creature in their own right.
Really
So
cool.
they do not hibernate. They actually stay
I wanted
active.
to ask you about that
Yeah.
because I like to talk to the kids about how they collect vegetables.
Yes. Yeah.
And then they have evolved to leave them out in the sun so they're dry and they don't spoil underground.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
I
They
think
they
that's
do
amazing.
really cool because they'll dry it out the grasses, keep that preserved. So they have to basically a whole stock of food dried out because they have a very hard. Again, they're also similar. Forest encouragement's a big part for them, right? Is the less meadow. They're also faced by they're very heat intolerant. So basically,
But they live
if
in
there's too
scree
hot,
slopes.
yeah. So like if it's too hot, they can only be out. If it's like I think it's like something like 72 degrees, so not very hot. They can only be out at a time for only a few minutes before having to cool down. So the further they have to go from those scree slopes to find meadow, the less time they are to gather. More obviously exposure for predators. But.
Would you want to contact with Allison, the pica survey?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
So she would, I think, love to give you lots of information.
yeah. 'Cause we do. We do sort of. We're one of several parks that do pica surveys and.
Their
And those are-
status, what's their status? Are they declining or increasing?
Well, so they're in trouble. They are one of the creatures of like kind of most concern with climate change. They're really really sensitive to that.
Yeah.
Weirdly enough, this park it has a very unique thing. We actually have a colony of pika that live right by the community building in the rocks, which is very low in this park, but.
There are some that we did the timed entry booth last
Oh
year.
yeah.
And there's a big pile of wood and stuff, junk.
And they're over
there's
there.
piker in there.
Yeah. It's just kind of they
That's-
have that like.
Contact her, and she would love to.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She would love.
Yeah.
Question: Are there examples of marmot cooperation?
Absolutely.
So I'll watch for predators, and you can eat, and then
Absolutely. Yeah, I've seen it. So they will. So the whistling too can be a big predator warning symbol, and I kind of like to think of it like. Like everybody, it's just like there's like warning alarms all along the way, and you'll see it where like if a pike is standing or a marmot standing up and whistling, further down the trail you'll see others standing up in alert, and then you kind of look around because there's probably one, and there was this golden eagle flying overhead, and they were all so others were running. So like sometimes the young or older might like run underground, might hide, but you'll see a few that are just like. Put aside the differences right now, and everybody sound the alarm. Get people hiding. There's something in this area. There's some sort of predator. There's something lurking. But it's also a signal to us to be like, okay, what's around? Is there like a bear? Is there a wolverine? Is there something cool? A coyote? But
I have a story about that. We're sitting around the Summerlin campsite, telling a story and you hear a whistle and oh, that's cute. And so you hear another whistle, oh, that's cute. And finally a third whistle and that's stupid. Oh, that's why you're whistling. And there was a bear
Oh yeah.
walking around the edge of the campsite.
Yeah. It's like it's an alarm for us too to be like, oh, what's going on? I had a visitor, and he never sent it in, which is really unfortunate. But he had a couple photos and a video of. Oh, I think she actually did send this in. I think this sent this in, but of a wolverine catching a marmot and like dragging it away. The video is kind of rough because the wolverine is just, or the marmot is just squealing, but it's got it basically around its back and it's just dragging it. And its legs are just like and it's just being like pulled away. But you know they got to eat. But yeah, it was one of the younger wolverines, and this is a pretty large marmot, and it was just like dragging it from its hole down the way. This guy got it all. He was like, "What is this creature?" And I was like, "Oh, let me tell you." Saw something very cool. Slightly traumatizing, but very cool. That's you know, it's the fun thing you can find in a national park.
Most of the people don't even know what is a wolverine.
Oh no, yeah, I mean, because they're not.
I seen two.
They're
of
not.
the
They're
last
not
2
stuff that
years.
you can like find like everywhere. Michigan, obviously, in Michigan, like they're still in some of the peninsulas out there.
Yeah.
Wisconsin has some, but like they're kind of sensitive to what they need too. So
I never seen him till 3 years
still
ago.
haven't seen one in a
I
while.
was sitting on the snow in spring, and then last year in the fall I saw one on the Dead Horse Creek Trail.
Oh yeah,
That's far down, and people look, what is this?
they've had visitor reports and photos, so I knew they were telling the truth. All over Skyline, Dead Horse, Moraine Trail, Golden Gate. So yeah, it is. Where there's marmots, where there's pika, where there's squirrels, they will be.
What are their behaviors in interactions with people? If they encounter people,
I mean, I would keep my distance.
Yeah, of course. But
they
do
have
they
not,
turn and run, or do
we
they?
have not had any negative encounters. That's a good question. I don't know if they've had any. I had a video that a visitor brought in where they were walking on Dead Horse actually, and a wolverine just like ran right in front of them, and I like saw the video and I was like, that is terrifying. It was like I just stopped, and it was just moving ahead. Seemed to completely ignore it. It completely ignored the person. I would imagine because like any other big predator, it has tons of natural food. It doesn't need to mess with something like us.
Yeah.
But I would still want to keep my distance. But it does seem similar to the bears in the sense of like, I'm not worrying about you. I'm focused on all this other stuff. So just stay out of my way. So that's good. It's not interested in us, but I would still want to keep a big distance because they are very aggressive creatures. Very sharp claws, sharp teeth. One of the strongest like bite strengths. Like they're a very impressive hunter. Kind of the perfect hunter. They've taken down like infirm, not healthy, but like kind of infirm moose. We've seen videos of that where like a very old, very sickly moose can be taken down, and those are monstrously big creatures. And they can kind of work a little bit in like small packs too, so that it's even scarier. But yeah, they're just. I would just want to keep a nice, healthy rule of thumb plus a bit extra from them.
Well, I'm thinking in terms of if people, Wolverine encounters become more frequent, how we advise visitors about their behaviors.
I would say it'd be similar to like bears. Noise, stand big. You know, make it be like I'm not a prey or threat, and it'll probably just do.
Thank you so much for your time, Darby. I'm sure he'll be around a little longer if you want to ask questions. We're going to make the transition to the picnic so that people have a place to set their food down.
And go get it. Excellent. Thank you for reporting as well.